First contact and invasion. The Carthalian warships emerged from hyperspace with surgical precision, their obsidian hulls absorbing Earth's sunlight like cosmic predators. Admiral Zex Thor watched the blue planet through his command viewport, mandibles clicking in anticipated victory. These primitive humans would fall like countless civilizations before them. Earth's first warning came when every digital display worldwide flickered and died. In the Pentagon's underground command center, General Sarah Chen stared at the dead screens, her 2 decades of military experience telling her this was no ordinary electromagnetic pulse. "Get me satellite confirmation," she ordered, but the words had barely left her mouth when the building shook violently. The alien ships struck without warning or demands. Their energy weapons carved through military bases worldwide with terrifying efficiency. Conventional weapons proved useless against their advanced shields. Within hours, Earth's major military installations lay in ruins, their defenses seemingly as primitive as stone spears against tanks. But humanity's response surprised the Carthalians. Instead of surrendering, Earth's surviving military forces went dark, disappearing into underground bunkers and mountain facilities. Civilian populations evacuated major cities with remarkable speed and organization. The humans were adapting, learning, and most importantly, they were angry. Dr. Maya Patel, leading quantum physicist at CERN, noticed something odd about the alien weapons' energy signatures. While others saw only destruction, she observed patterns in the interference they caused. Working from a hidden facility beneath the Swiss Alps, she began collecting data, forming a theory that would soon change everything. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley's remaining underground tech hubs, a group of hackers led by former game developer Marcus Wong noticed that the alien communications produced similar patterns to certain networking protocols. "They're using quantum entanglement for communication," Marcus realized, but their implementation, it's rigid, almost arrogant in its assumptions. General Chen received these findings while coordinating with other surviving military leaders. The aliens' technological superiority had made them predictable. They followed the same attack patterns, used the same tactics, never adapting because they'd never needed to. Humanity's greatest weakness, its constant struggle to overcome limitations, had forged an adaptability the aliens lacked. The resistance began in small ways. Civilian shortwave radio operators created a global communication network the aliens couldn't track. Local manufacturing facilities retooled to produce new types of weapons based on Dr. Patel's observations. Hackers worldwide probed the alien networks, looking for vulnerabilities in their quantum communications. Admiral Zex Thor grew increasingly frustrated. These humans were supposed to be primitive, yet they refused to break. Every time his forces leveled a military installation, new resistance emerged from unexpected quarters. Their tactics were unpredictable, their responses innovative. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something alien to his kind: uncertainty. The first month of occupation ended with a stalemate. The Carthalians controlled the skies but couldn't secure the ground. Humanity had lost much but gained crucial understanding of their enemy. In hidden facilities worldwide, people worked tirelessly, preparing for a counterattack none of their enemies could imagine. Dr. Patel's team made the breakthrough they needed. The alien shields operated on principles of quantum field manipulation, but their arrogance had left a fatal flaw. They never considered someone would attack the field itself, she explained to General Chen. They built their defenses assuming no primitive species could understand quantum mechanics at their level. The pieces were falling into place. Marcus Wong's team had found patterns in the alien communication networks that suggested vulnerabilities. General Chen's forces had developed new guerrilla tactics that kept the aliens off balance. And in laboratories worldwide, scientists were developing weapons that would target the fundamental assumptions in alien technology. As the sun set on the first month of invasion, humanity prepared for what would become known as Operation Quantum Strike. The aliens had expected an easy conquest of a primitive species, Instead, they had awakened a civilization that had spent its entire history learning to overcome impossible odds. The resistance would begin at dawn. The hidden strength. The underground facility beneath Seattle's former tech district hummed with activity. Marcus Wong's fingers flew across his keyboard while holographic displays showed the complex patterns of alien quantum communications. His team had been working for weeks to understand the encrypted transmissions, but today felt different. They were close to something big. "Look at this pattern," he called to Dr. Sarah Martinez, a quantum computing specialist who'd escaped the destruction of Silicon Valley. "Their encryption isn't actually random. They're using a deterministic quantum algorithm because they never expected anyone to be able to detect it, let alone decode it." Across the globe, in the reinforced bunkers beneath CERN, Dr. Maya Patel's team made a complementary discovery. The alien shields weren't just energy barriers. They were complex quantum fields that shifted in predictable patterns. Their very predictability was their weakness, a weakness born of technological arrogance. General Chen received both reports, while coordinating from a mobile command center in the Rockies. The aliens' superiority had made them complacent. They relied on technology so advanced they believed no primitive species could comprehend it, let alone counter it. But they had never faced humanity's unique capacity for innovation under pressure. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A teenager in Mumbai, Arun Sharma, had been experimenting with his father's old ham radio equipment when he noticed something strange. The alien ships created distinctive interference patterns in certain radio frequencies. These patterns changed whenever the ships used their weapons or shields, but always followed specific sequences. When this information reached Dr. Patel, everything clicked. "They're not just using quantum fields," she explained to her team. "They're using a standardized set of quantum states. It's efficient, yes, but it's also predictable. Like using the same password for everything, because you think no one can access your system." The resistance network sprang into action. Using restored fiber optic lines and encrypted radio transmissions, scientists worldwide began sharing data. The aliens had superior technology, but humanity had something they lacked: diversity of thought and approach. In hidden factories, new weapons were being developed. Not the energy weapons or antimatter bombs of science fiction, but devices that exploited the very standardization the aliens relied upon. Traditional electromagnetic pulse weapons were modified based on Arun's observations. Quantum interference generators were constructed using principles derived from Dr. Patel's research. Admiral Zexthor noticed the change in human activity but misinterpreted it. His reports to the Carthalian High Command spoke of decreased resistance, of humanity finally accepting their inevitable defeat. He couldn't detect the quantum interference experiments being conducted in shielded facilities, or the new communication networks being established using principles his people had long abandoned as inefficient. The human resistance had another advantage. Their apparent technological inferiority meant the aliens weren't watching for advanced quantum experiments. They monitored for nuclear launches, for large energy signatures, for the kinds of threats they understood. They weren't looking for the subtle tests being conducted worldwide. Marcus Wong's team finally cracked the alien communication protocols. "It's beautiful in its arrogance," he explained to General Chen. "Their quantum encryption is unbreakable by brute force, but they use the same basic principles across their entire network. Once you understand one part, you understand it all." In the hidden labs, Dr. Patel's team developed a weapon that could disrupt the alien quantum fields. It wouldn't be as dramatic as a nuclear bomb or as visually impressive as their energy weapons. Instead, it would target the fundamental assumptions in their technology, using their own standardization against them. The pieces were coming together. Humanity had found the hidden weakness in the apparently invincible alien force, their absolute certainty in their own superiority. This certainty had led them to create systems that were efficient but inflexible, advanced but predictable. As the second month of occupation drew to a close, General Chen gave the order to begin manufacturing the new weapons in quantity. The aliens had superior technology, but humanity had learned to turn their own standardization against them. The next phase of resistance would target not just their ships and weapons, but the very foundations of their technological advantage. Operation Quantum Strike was no longer just a plan. It was becoming a reality, and the aliens wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. Operation Thunderstrike. Dawn broke over the Himalayas as General Chen's encrypted transmission reached resistance cells worldwide. Operation Quantum Strike would begin in precisely 12 hours. The plan seemed almost absurdly simple on paper, but its simplicity was its genius. The aliens would be looking for complexity, for advanced technology, for threats that matched their understanding of warfare. In the Seattle bunker, Marcus Wong made final adjustments to the quantum interference network. His team had repurposed thousands of ordinary cell phones and radio transmitters, each modified to emit precisely calibrated frequencies. Alone, each device was harmless. Together, they would create a quantum resonance that would disrupt the aliens' standardized shield frequencies. Dr. Patel's team in CERN had distributed their quantum field disruptors to resistance cells worldwide. The devices looked primitive, cobbled together from modified microwave transmitters and repurposed quantum research equipment. Their appearance was another layer of protection. The alien scans would dismiss them as harmless remnants of human technology. Admiral Zexthor noticed increased human activity, but remained unconcerned. His sensors detected no energy weapons being prepared, no nuclear devices being armed. The scattered electromagnetic emissions appeared random, disorganized, exactly what he expected from a primitive species in its death throes. His latest report to High Command predicted total pacification within a standard month. The first phase began at sunset. Across the globe, resistance cells activated their modified transmitters. The emissions were barely detectable, harmonizing with Earth's natural electromagnetic field. The alien sensors registered the change but classified it as insignificant. Their algorithms, designed to detect advanced energy weapons, ignored what appeared to be background noise. In the Rockies Command Center, General Chen watched the quantum interference pattern build on her displays. The alien standardized shield frequencies were beginning to show subtle distortions, like a crystal glass vibrating before it shatters, Dr. Patel had explained. The aliens' very technological uniformity was becoming their weakness. Marcus Wong's team initiated the second phase at midnight. Their quantum hacking program slipped through the aliens' communications network, exploiting the standardized protocols. Instead of trying to break their advanced encryption, the program used their own quantum entanglement channels to spread a cascading disruption through their network. The first alien ship fell at dawn over Buenos Aires. Its shield simply vanished, the quantum field collapsing as the global interference pattern reached critical resonance. Conventional weapons, previously useless, tore through the suddenly vulnerable hull. Admiral Zexthor received the distress signal but couldn't comprehend the readings. How could primitive projectile weapons have penetrated their advanced shields? The pattern repeated worldwide. Human resistance fighters, armed with a mixture of conventional weapons and Dr. Patel's disruptors, struck at suddenly vulnerable alien positions. The Carthalians' response was predictable. They attempted to boost power to their shields, inadvertently amplifying the quantum resonance that was destroying them. In orbit, Admiral Zexthor faced a decision he had never imagined possible. His fleet's quantum communications were degrading, shields were failing across the planet, and human attacks were becoming increasingly effective. The impossible was happening. These primitives had found a way to turn his people's technological superiority against them. The counterattack's true genius lay in its asymmetric nature. The humans weren't trying to match the aliens' technology. They were exploiting its fundamental assumptions. Every attempt by the Carthalians to strengthen their defenses only made them more vulnerable to the quantum resonance effect. As the third month of occupation began, humanity launched its first coordinated offensive. The aliens' technological advantage had become a liability. Their standardized systems, designed for efficiency and unbreakable by conventional means, were being undone by their own predictability. Operation Quantum Strike wasn't just a military victory. It was a triumph of human adaptability over alien complacency. The Resistance had turned the entire planet into a weapon, using the Earth's electromagnetic field as a carrier for their quantum disruption. The tide was turning, but the war was far from over. Admiral Zexthor still commanded a powerful fleet, and the Carathalians were finally beginning to adapt. The next phase of the war would test humanity's ingenuity like never before. The turning point. Admiral Zexthor stood in his command center, mandibles twitching with barely contained rage as he reviewed the battle reports. In just 1 week, the humans had destroyed 37 ships and disabled countless ground installations. The Carthalian High Command demanded explanations he couldn't provide. How had these primitives developed quantum disruption technology so quickly? More importantly, how had they turned it into such an effective weapon? On Earth, the Resistance was learning from each victory. Dr. Patel's team discovered that the quantum disruption effect could be focused, creating dead zones where no alien technology could function. Marcus Wong's hackers had mapped the aliens' entire communication network, predicting their responses before they happened. The humans were no longer just surviving. They were hunting. But the Carathalians were finally adapting. Their ships began using rotating shield frequencies, making them harder to disrupt. They abandoned their standardized quantum protocols, sacrificing efficiency for security. Admiral Zexthor ordered his remaining forces to use primitive radio communications, immune to quantum interference. General Chen watched these developments with growing concern. The element of surprise was fading, and the aliens were learning. "They're starting to think like us," she told her staff. "They're abandoning their technological arrogance. The next phase will be harder." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Arun Sharma, the teenage radio enthusiast from Mumbai, noticed that the aliens' new rotating shield frequencies weren't truly random. "They're using a mathematical progression," he explained over the Resistance network. "Complex, but still predictable. They can't help themselves. Efficiency is built into their very nature." Dr. Martinez, working with Marcus Wong's team, expanded on this observation. The aliens weren't just being efficient, they were being methodical in a way that revealed their underlying psychology. "They're like a chess computer," she explained. "Incredibly powerful, but ultimately bound by their programming. They can adapt, but only within certain parameters." Humanity's response was characteristically innovative. Instead of trying to predict the new shield frequencies, they developed weapons that would force the aliens to shift frequencies at specific times. The Resistance didn't need to know exactly what frequency would come next. They just needed to control when the shift happened. The first test of this new strategy came during the Battle of Sydney. Resistance forces launched a coordinated attack that appeared to target the aliens' communication systems. The Carathalians responded exactly as predicted, shifting their shield frequencies to counter the perceived threat. At that precise moment, the humans launched their real attack, a barrage of quantum disruption pulses calibrated to the exact frequency they had forced the aliens to use. 3 Carthalian cruisers fell from the sky over Sydney Harbor. Admiral Zexthor watched the footage in disbelief. The humans hadn't just adapted to their adaptation, they had turned it into a trap. For the first time, he began to understand what made these primitives so dangerous. They didn't just learn from their mistakes, they learned from their enemies' successes. The victory at Sydney marked a crucial shift in the war. The Carthalians could no longer rely on their technological superiority, but neither could they abandon it entirely. Every adaptation they made was turned against them by human ingenuity. Their very attempt to become less predictable had made them more vulnerable. General Chen launched coordinated attacks worldwide, each designed to exploit the aliens' methodical responses. The Resistance didn't need overwhelming force. They just needed to understand how their enemy would react. Human unpredictability had become a weapon more powerful than any quantum disruption field. In orbit, Admiral Zexthor faced a crisis of leadership. His fleet was being systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were fighting smart, using the Carthalians' own nature against them. His reports to High Command became increasingly desperate as he realized a terrible truth. They had severely underestimated not just humanity's capability, but their adaptability. As the fourth month of war began, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. The humans had learned to predict and manipulate alien responses with devastating effectiveness. The Carthalians found themselves fighting an enemy who seemed to know their next move before they made it. The final phase of the war was approaching, but it would not be fought with advanced technology or overwhelming force. It would be won by the species that could adapt faster, think more creatively, and turn their enemy's strength into a weakness, victory, and beyond. The final battle began not with a bang, but with silence. Complete, absolute silence across all communication channels. The quantum interference network that Marcus Wong's team had built suddenly went dark. Dr. Patel's disruption fields powered down worldwide. For 17 crucial minutes, humanity seemed to have surrendered its greatest weapons. Admiral Zexthor watched from his flagship as his sensors detected the shutdown. After 4 months of constant electronic warfare, the sudden quiet was more terrifying than any attack. His tactical computers presented multiple scenarios, each more concerning than the last. The humans had proven repeatedly that their apparent retreats were often traps. In her Rocky Mountain Command Center, General Chen waited. The plan was audacious, perhaps even crazy, but it embodied everything that had given humanity its edge in this war. Sometimes, she had told her staff, the best way to be unpredictable is to do exactly what your enemy expects. But for entirely different reasons. The Carthalians took the bait. Seeing an opportunity to regain their technological advantage, they reactivated their original standardized systems. Their quantum communications came back online. Their shields returned to maximum power. Admiral Zexthor ordered his fleet to prepare for a final, overwhelming strike against the suddenly vulnerable humans. That's when Arun Sharma's modified radio network activated. Not the sophisticated quantum interference devices or the shield disruptors, but thousands of simple, primitive radio transmitters. They broadcast on frequencies the aliens had long since dismissed as irrelevant, carrying a signal that seemed like meaningless noise. The true genius of humanity's final gambit became clear as the alien fleet began to move. Hidden in that apparently random radio noise was a complex program, designed by Marcus Wong's team, and enhanced by Dr. Martinez's quantum computing insights. It didn't attack the aliens' advanced systems directly. Instead, it used their own quantum communication network to distribute itself throughout their fleet. The effect was devastating. The program didn't try to defeat the aliens' quantum encryption. It simply made their systems question their own data. Shields remained at full power, but protected against threats that didn't exist. Weapons targeted phantom enemies. The mighty Carthalian fleet, led by their advanced artificial intelligence, began fighting shadows. Admiral Zexthor watched in horror as his ships, responding to false sensor data, began firing on each other. The humans hadn't defeated their technology. They had turned it against itself. Every attempt to reset or override the systems only spread the confusion further through their quantum-linked network. The resistance struck at precisely the right moment. Conventional weapons, guided by real human intelligence rather than compromised computer systems, found their marks with deadly accuracy. The aliens couldn't distinguish real attacks from the false signals flooding their sensors. Their perfect technological integration had become a perfect vulnerability. In orbit, Admiral Zexthor made the hardest decision of his career. With his fleet in chaos and no way to trust his own systems, he ordered a full retreat. The mighty Carthalian armada, which had arrived so confidently 4 months ago, fled Earth's orbit in disarray. Their defeat wasn't just military, it was philosophical. Every assumption about technological superiority and the nature of advancement had been turned on its head. The aftermath of victory brought its own challenges and opportunities. Dr. Patel's team began studying the abandoned alien technology, not to copy it, but to understand its principles and limitations. Marcus Wong's hackers cataloged the vast amount of data they'd gathered, learning as much from the aliens' mistakes as from their achievements. Perhaps the most profound change was in how humanity viewed itself. The war had proven that true advancement wasn't just about technology. It was about creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to question assumptions. The Carthalians had superior technology, but had become its slaves. Humanity had less advanced technology, but had learned to use it in ways its creators had never imagined. General Chen's final report to the United Nations contained a warning and a promise. "We won this war not because we were stronger or more advanced," she wrote, "but because we never stopped questioning, adapting, and innovating." That's the real lesson here. The moment we become complacent, the moment we stop looking for new ways to solve problems, is the moment we become vulnerable to the next threat. In Mumbai, Arun Sharma returned to his radio hobby, but now with a deeper understanding of its potential. In Seattle, Marcus Wong's team began developing new technologies that combined human ingenuity with the lessons learned from the invasion. At CERN, Dr. Patel led a new initiative to explore quantum physics in ways the Carthalians had never considered. The war had changed both species. The Carthalians would never again dismiss a seemingly primitive civilization. Humanity would never again doubt its ability to face seemingly impossible odds. But perhaps the most important change was in how both species understood progress. True advancement, they had learned, wasn't about having the most powerful technology. It was about having the wisdom and creativity to use whatever tools were available in innovative ways. As Earth began its recovery, the stars seemed a little closer, a little less threatening. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger, not just in terms of technology, but in understanding its own potential. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Whatever challenges it brought, humanity would face them with the same creativity, adaptability, and determination that had turned a technological disadvantage into their greatest strength.